Okay, this last unit, we're gonna go over a little bit organic. So mainly, I just want you guys to get familiar with naming compounds and also drawing or writing out compounds. So we're first gonna look at what are called hydrocarbons. Those are molecules that just contain hydrogen and carbon. And there are different types of hydrocarbons. There's aliphatic and then aromatic. So the first one basically are kind of like long plain chains. They can be different types of bonding. They can be in a ring. Aromatic is also a ring, but it has kind of like multiple bonds within the ring. But we'll break these down. All right, so the three types of main molecules we're going to look at first are your hydrocarbons that are alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. Alkanes contain carbons that are all singly bonded within the chain. Those are known as saturated. And then alkenes have a double bond, at least one double bond between two carbons within the chain. And an alkyne has a triple bond. Those two are considered unsaturated. Now, you've heard those terms before. We're going to go over those in a little bit here, though. There are two things you need to name the compound. There are two parts. There's a prefix and a suffix. So a prefix basically tells you how many carbons are in that main chain, or possibly the ring. And the suffix tells you what type of bonding is occurring, if it's a single, double, or a triple bond in it. So let's go over prefixes. So we have our prefixes 1 through 10 that you might want to jot down so you have it, or you can go back and look at it off the slide, but it's best to come and write them down. So if it contains one carbon and only one carbon in that hydrocarbon, the prefix is meth, like methane. You've heard of that before. And here's how you remember it. If you use meth, you're a loser. Nobody wants to hang out with you. You're all by yourself. And then if it has two carbons, I think of it as my most favorite comic duo, Lucy and Ethel. Because so Lucy has her partner Ethel. So two carbons is F. That's how I remembered it. And then three carbons, the prefix is prop. You can think of like, if the prop, I think of like propping up something. You need like a tripod type of thing to prop something up. So prop is 3. 4 is bute. It is not but. No such thing as butane. There's something called butane. But bute is 4. And this is how I remember it. You have 4 cheeks on yourself. You have 2 on your face and 2 more that you sit on. So that's how I remember 4. And then 5 through 10 is kind of like geometry. So pent is 5, hex is 6, hept is 7, oct is 8, non is 9, and 10 is dec. Then we have our suffix. So again, it indicates the type of bond. So alkane, again, has single bonds. So that hydrocarbon would end in ane for alkane. And then if it's a double bond, it's going to end in ene. If it has a triple bond, it's going to end in yne. Okay, so again, let's go over the types again. So an alkane, it has a chain of carbons that are connected singly, single bonds. Let's go back to that. So this is considered to be a saturated hydrocarbon. And then we're going to go over what saturated and unsaturated is. It's basically a difference in bonds between the carbons. So have you heard of saturated, unsaturated fats? So saturated fats, you'll notice in the long carbon chain, all of these carbons right here are all single bonded. So this saturated fats are consist of long chain carbons that are all singly bonded. So this is a carboxylic type of acid. You'll find these in a lot of animal byproducts found in the fats, butter, even things that are solid are considered to be saturated fats. And it's because the bonds are free to rotate, so they can kind of compress together, and so they exist in solid form, and they're kind of locked into place. Whereas unsaturated fat has a a double bond within the carbon chain. So we have this double bond right here. This makes it so it won't lock into place. Basically, it can move around. So these type of fats are typically going to be in liquid form. So a lot of your oils, fish oils, things that are good for you. All right, trying to get it to go. Here we go. So let's go over, there's rules that we're going to go through. We're going to go through the first two, and then you guys are going to try some. So first rule is you need to identify the longest chain. So you look at your structure, you count how many carbons are in there, and then you go according to the prefix. If it has 1, 2, 3, how many carbons are in there, that's what you're going to start your word with. So here's some examples. Like if it has 1 carbon, like CH4, that's called methane. If it has 2 carbons in the long chain, that's called ethane, and so on. Rule 2 is you have to number the carbons in the main chain. So you can count from the left and count over to the right, or you can count from the right and go over to the left. Now, typically you want to start counting from the side that the double bond or the triple bond is closest to. And then we're going to talk about add-ons and functional groups later, but right now you're just working on multiple bonds. So if the double bond's closer to the left, you start counting the carbon on the left and count toward the right. If the double bond's closer to the right, you start counting on the right and count toward the left. Okay, the third rule is after you count the carbon chain is to identify the type of hydrocarbon. Also, we're going to learn about functional groups. And so we're just focusing again on hydrocarbons right now. And then we have to pick the correct suffix. So our hydrocarbons that we're looking at right now are alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. So again, alkane is going to end in ANE, ENE for alkenes, and alkynes are YNE. So that's going to help us name. So I'll give you some examples. So again, we've seen this before. This is 1 carbon in this hydrocarbon. It has 4 hydrogens around it. So we know that's called methane. Meth meaning 1 carbon. It all single bonds. So ANE. Another example would be this one. If you notice, this has 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons on it. But I'm going to start counting from this side right here. Let me see if I can get my pen up here. Come on, pen. It's not. Here we go. So I'm going to start counting from here because this double bond is closer to the left than it is the right. So I start counting over. Now this contains 4 carbons. So bute is 4. Remember that prefix is bute. It has a double bond, so it's going to end in ENE. So it's called butene. And I have to indicate where that double bond starts. It starts at the first carbon. So I put a 1 in the front. All right. So the next couple slides, you guys are going to try some of those. So give it a shot.